Hello student, myself is Dr. S.V.K. Khairnar, Associate Professor and Head of the Department of Botany from Maratha Vidya Prasarak Samaj, S.V.K.T College, Devdali Camp. Student, we are studying the different topics from our botany syllabus in this series of video. Today also we will going to see or we will going to learn the new topic from the botany. Before that, what we were studied in the last video, that I will just revise or recap to you. In the last video, we were seen the structure of flower. So in that structure of flower, what is mean by flower? What are the typical parts of a flower? What is a complete and incomplete flower, and what is a symmetry of flower? I have already defined the flower. Flower is nothing but a reproductive modified shoot for the purpose of reproduction. In general, flower has a 4 parts from outside to inside, and that are calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. We can also decide whether flower is complete or incomplete. If all the 4 parts are present, such flower can be called as a complete flower, and if any one of them is absent, such flower can be called as a incomplete flower. In the symmetry, we have saw the 3 kinds of symmetry in the flowers. The flower may be radially symmetrical, the flower may be zygomorphic, and the flower may be irregular or non-symmetrical flower. So these points we were studied in the last video. Our today's session agenda is next point regarding the study of flower. Today we will going to see the another aspect with concern to the flower. In that aspect, we want to see what is mean by unisexual and bisexual flower. We can also categorize a flower on the basis of sexuality, means whether flower is unisexual or flower is bisexual. We also want to see or learn what way the insertion of the floral parts has been taken on the surface of thalamus. That also has some meaning for the categorization of a flower. That also we want to learn today. We also want to see the position of ori in a particular flower, and on the basis of position of ori, we can also categorize a flower as a hypogynous flower, perigynous flower and epigynous flower. So in this in the today's video, we also want to learn what is mean by hypogynous flower, what is mean by perigynous flower, and what is mean by epigynous flower. And the last point of today's session is that we also want to understand what is a merosity in the flower. Merosity means what? How many calyx, how many sepals, how many petals, and how many stamens are present, and according to number of these different floral parts, the merosity of a flower is decided, and we want to learn and understand the merus condition in a flower under the merosity of a flower. This is what our today's agenda in the series of studies of flower. What are the learning objectives of today's topic? The learning objectives of today's topic are that we want to know or we want to understand the sexuality of a flower. On the basis of presence and absence of reproductive structure, we can define the flower, so that all the points are come under the sexuality of a flower. And we also want to understand how the different floral whorls are arranged on the surface of thalamus, and that arrangement we can use for the another topic for dividing or for categorizing the flower with that particular view. We also want to understand or learn what is mean by hypogynous flower, what is mean by perigynous flower, and what is mean by epigynous flower, and how these kinds of flowers are defined, what way the arrangement of all the floral whorls are there in these kinds of flower. That also one of the objectives of today's our study. And last objective of our today's study, that is what we want to get understand the merosity of a flower. Under the merosity of a flower, we want to learn the merous condition in a flower, means how many calyx are there, how many petals are there, and how many stamens are there, and according to the number of these different floral parts, we can decide the merosity of a particular flower. That also is we want to learn in the today's learning video. Then we will now start our actual topic. The first topic is that what is mean by sexuality of a flowers. Sexuality of a flowers means what are the different sexual parts are present or absent in a flower, that we can generally considered as a sexuality of flower. On the basis of sexuality of a flower, and whether the sexual organs are present, all the sexual organs are present, or some of them are not present. On the basis of that presence and absence of the sexual organ or reproductive structure in the flower, we can categorize a flower sexually in the two types. You can see the first image. The first image is showing the structure of flower, and in that structure you can see the reproductive structures are present in the form of stamens and pistil or gynoecium. It means what? The male as well as female reproductive structure is present in that first image. So in such a condition, when the flower which contains both androecium and gynoecium in a same flower, and such flower can be known as a bisexual flower. For example, we can see the flower of hibiscus, that can be considered as a bisexual flower, because the male sex organ as well as female sex organ of a flower are present in the same flower, and such flower is on the basis of sexuality is identified as a bisexual flower. You can see the image clearly. So there is a presence of stamens showing the different parts, anther, filament, presence of pistil or gynoecium showing the parts like ori, style and stigma in the one and same flower. So this is what a first kind of flower on the basis of sexuality. Now the another kind of flower made on the basis of sexuality, that can be called as a unisexual flower. So what is mean by unisexual flower? In the flower where either stamen or gynoecium may be present, any one of them is absent, and such flower may be called as a unisexual flower. For example, the flower of the plants of family Cucurbitaceae, that are what? Unisexual in nature. You can see the image or diagram of unisexual flower. In that diagram you can see the flower showing only the presence of gynoecium, and the androecium, that is what a male reproductive structure, that is what totally absent, and that's why only one kind of reproductive structure is present, and that time we can identify or recognize such flower as a unisexual flower. And this is what, either from the stamen or gynoecium any one is present, and such flower can be treated as a unisexual flower. For better understanding, you can see or observe the both images of bisexual flower and unisexual flower. The unisexual flower may also called as a imperfect, and if the gynoecium is present, such unisexual flower is called as a pistillate flower, and if only the stamens are present, such unisexual flower is called as a staminate flower. So we will go for the next point of our today's study, that is what? The insertion of the floral whorls. I have already explained you in the last video also that a typical flower has a 4 floral parts: calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium, and these floral parts are inserted or are present on the surface of thalamus. So, how they are inserted on the thalamus? It has a significance in the categorization of the flower. So, now we want to see the insertion of flower. Now, on the basis of insertion of flower, flower may be categorized as a hypogynous flower, perigynous flower or epigynous flower. You can see the first image. In the first image you can see the thalamus is there, and just side of the thalamus there are presence of calyx, there are presence of corolla, there are presence of androecium, and lastly there is a presence of gynoecium. So, here you can see the position of the gynoecium is somewhat superior, means all other parts on the thalamus are present at the lower level to the gynoecium, means they are inferior in arrangement and gynoecium is superior in arrangement. So, this is what a first kind of flower on the basis of insertion of floral whorl, then that is called as a hypogynous flower. So, what is meant by hypogynous flower? When sepals, petals and stamens are situated below the ovary, you can see they are just in the figure you can observe this very clearly. These all parts are situated below the ovary, and such flower is called as a hypogynous flower, and in such flower the ovary is superior. For example, you can consider a flower of dhotra. Many plants flowers are of hypogynous type. For your better understanding, the image of the one of the such flower is also mentioned here. Now, the second kind of flower, you can see this second image, and here what happens, the thalamus grows somewhat upward and they are forming a cup like cup shaped structure, and at the center of this cup shaped structure the gynoecium is situated, and the margins of thalamus are somewhat extended longer. So, the margins are come at a high height, and the other floral parts like calyx, corolla and androecium are present on the such elongated margin of a thalamus, and that is why in this flower the ovary is seen just below all these parts, and all these parts are somewhat at a upper level, and such kind of arrangement in the arrangement of the flower, the position of gynoecium or ovary is inferior, and this flower may be half inferior, and you can see the half superior ovary, and this flower can be treated as a perigynous flower. So, here thalamus grows upward and cup shaped structure is developed, gynoecium situated at the center and other floral parts located at the rim of thalamus. So, such flower is half superior and half inferior, means the gynoecium is not completely inferior. So, it is half superior and half inferior, and that is why the middle condition is observed in between the hypogynous and epigynous flower, and such flower can be identified as a perigynous flower on the basis of insertion of a floral part. So, you can see the image very clearly. So, there you will find the perigynous arrangement of the ovary. The third kind of flower on the basis of insertion of the floral parts, that is called as a epigynous flower. Here what happened, the extended thalamus are get fused and they entirely covers the gynoecium, and that is why the gynoecium is totally complete at the lower level, and all other parts are rested on the tip on the upper side, and that is why here margins of the thalamus grows upward and fused with the ovary. Therefore, the parts of the flower arise above the ovary. So, other parts are arising above the ovary, and ovary is below all other parts. So, here the position of ovary is clearly epigynous, so inferior in position, and all other floral parts you can see the sepals are at the upper side, petals are at the upper side, stamens are also at the upper side, and such flower on the basis of insertion of floral parts or floral whorls identified as a epigynous flower. Such flower is called as epigynous flower. For example, you can consider the ray floret of sunflower. So, in this way, on the basis of insertion of the floral whorl, the flower is categorized into the three types, mainly on the basis of position of the gynoecium, and that are hypogynous flower, perigynous flower and epigynous flower. Now, we will going to see the last point of our today's lecture, that is what merosity in flower. So, what is mean by merosity in flower? Merosity is the number of component part in each whorl of a flower, means how many numbers of sepals are there, how many numbers of petals are there and how many stamens are there. And these merosity generally refers with concern to sepals, petals and stamens of a flower. And on the basis of all these three floral whorls, the merosity of the flower is decided. On the basis of merosity of the flower, the flower is also categorized into the 5 types. For example, the first type is what? The dimerous flower or dimary. So, what is mean by dimerous flower or dimary? Here the number of sepals and number of petals are generally 2. So, you can see there are 2 parts, and that is why this flower is reflecting the dimary, or it may also called as a dimerous flower. So, 2 parts are there in each whorl, sepals, petals and maybe in stamens also. You can see the image, that image showing the 2 petals, and that is why the flower is an example of the dimerous kind of flower. If there are 3 parts in each whorl, that is called as a trimary, and such flower is called as a trimerous flower. So, you can see here there are 3 petals are there, and there are also 3 sepals. It means what? The flower is trimerous on the basis of, though there are more stamens, but the first 2 whorls are in the series of 3, and that is why it may also called as a trimerous flower. So, the image clearly showing you the trimerous condition. So, 3 parts are there in each whorl, and such flower is called as a trimerous flower. If there are 4 parts in each whorl, such flower can be called as a tetramerous flower, and such merosity is called as a tetramary. So, here you can see in the last image there are 4 petals you are looking, and 4 stamens are there. This is sufficient to indicate the tetramerous condition of a flower, and this is what? A tetramary in a flower. Then if there are 5 parts, then such flower is called as a pentamary. You can see this is what one of the flowers showing the 5 petals. There might be obviously 5 sepals are also there. So, on the basis of 5 petals we can decide this flower is what? Pentamerous in nature, and such merosity can be identified or recognized as a pentamary. So, 5 parts are there in each whorl. You can see the image is clearly showing the pentamerous condition. Then the last type, that is what? Polymary or polymerous flower. If the numbers of parts are many, more than 5, then such merosity can be called as a polymary or polymerous condition in the flower. There are many examples of polymerous conditions we can see in the nature. The very well known examples are flower of rose, flower of lotus. So, here you can see in the image the flower of lotus is there. You can find many petals are there, many stamens are there. So, this indicating the polymary condition or polymary merosity, and condition is polymerous flower. So, in this way, on the basis of merosity or number of floral parts, we can divide the flower into the 5 kinds: dimerous flower, trimerous flower, tetramerous flower, pentamerous flower, and polymerous flower. Now we learn in today's video that is what sexuality in the flower, insertion of floral whorl, and merosity of flower. We will just revise all these points in the summary of this video. On the basis of sexuality, we can categorize the flower as a bisexual flower if both sex organs are present, stamens and androecium, or gynoecium or pistil is present, such flower is bisexual. So many examples are there in the nature with a bisexual kind of flower. Then unisexual flower, only one reproductive structure or one kind of sex organ is present in a one flower, and such flower is known as a unisexual flower. For example, the flowers of members of family Cucurbitaceae, there may be presence of only androecium, such flower is called as only male flower. If gynoecium is present, such flower is called as a female flower. Then we learn the merosity. According to merosity, we categorize the flower as a dimerous flower if 2 floral parts are there, trimerous flower if 3 floral parts are there, tetramerous flower if 3 floral parts are there. Tetramerous flower means 4 floral parts are there. Pentamerous flower means 5 floral parts are there, and polymerous flower means there are many floral parts are there in each one. So this is what a summary of our today's video. Now what will be the expected assignment, or what will be the expected question on the basis of this particular topic? The question may be asked like, what is meant by bisexual flower, what is meant by unisexual flower, what is hypogynous flower, what is perigynous flower, what is epigynous flower, what is a merosity of flower. So these are the expected question of the on this particular topic. So this is what our today's topic under the series of study of flower. In the next coming video, we will going to see again the study of different floral words, that is calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium in detail. Thank you.